right. We're going to open up the text line for our listeners. I need a new NFL team after watching HBO Hard Knocks last night and of the Dallas Cowboys. I knew Dak Prescott was the alpha, the leader, the guy that everybody looked to. And that's obvious from the first 15, 30 seconds of the show. I told Blake I don't know if I can watch another episode because, one, it was depressing and embarrassing outside of Dak. And so anyway, I need to ask our listeners, what team do I need to – I need a new team in the NFL. And it's not going to be the Saints, so don't go there. That ship sailed years ago. So I need to know, what direction should I go? Should I go with the Titans?
Bills? They're exciting. They're fun to watch, man.
Nobody watches the Buffalo Bills.
That's a lie. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen.
Okay, whatever. I understand the excitement around their young offensive talent, but whatever.
They got Bill Belichick shaking in his boots, all right?
That's another topic for another day. All right. Your SEC Insider hit this morning. We missed National Panini Day because Blake can't do his job. And we want you to go to Sal and Mookie's in Madison and smash one of their paninis for lunch. Sal and Mookie's in Madison right here in between Home Depot and Kroger. Sal and Mookie's Madison. Delicious New York-style pizza. Their wings are great, but they've got a great menu of paninis. And so we want you to go. And they've got great beer. So there you go. Speaking of beer, Steve Palazzolo joins us on the Modelo guest line, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus. Steve, I watched, and I know you told Blake you haven't watched it. Y'all are busy and so on, and I don't blame you. But I watched it last night. I watched HBO Hard Knocks. And Mike McCarthy's a disaster. Jerry Jones is a disaster, even though he's brilliant as a businessman. And I can see now why this franchise hasn't been to the NFC Championship game since 1997. Your thoughts?
As you said, I didn't see it, but so it was just terrible. I mean, what did we learn from the reality TV show that likes to paint people in certain light? Maybe you don't need to believe all of it.
Okay, you're right, and I thought about that. Okay, I did, and I understand that they have to put some sizzle in it. I think that I tell you what, I'm blown away. I'm blown away that Mike McCarthy ever got the Green Bay job. I'm blown away that I guess that they won the Lombardi Trophy, but also, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was amazing last year, but that was like him in his like prime. I went and looked at McCarthy's resume, and that scared me even more. He never really spent any time under – I mean, Marty Schottenheimer was a good coach and I know he got hosed at San Diego. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of, 24-ounce ribeye for me in that resume. And I just think they're an absolute and total disaster on the personnel side and with Mike McCarthy.
Well, at least you're not overreacting at all. So it'll be that much more glorious when Dak and his robo shoulder, get healthy and he comes back and just, drags McCarthy and Jerry Jones to the championship. It'll be that much more satisfactory for you guys.
Oh, man. I guess the one thing is that CeeDee Lamb's going to be a year older. And obviously Amari and all the other dudes can already play. And they look to be – well, I know I asked you this a few weeks ago, but let me know again. Where do you rank the Cowboys wide receiver unit as a whole? Would it be in the top 5 for you?
Yeah, I mean, if we were just talking receivers, they're number 2, probably behind the Bucs. I think overall, even when you include tight ends, I don't think the Cowboys have the best tight ends in the world, but yeah, they're second or third, right up there. I think with the Bucs, the Bills, Bucs and the Bills, and then it depends on how much you want to weigh the Chiefs having 2 studs and then not much else behind them. So yeah, I think the Cowboys are right up there with the best teams in the league. They should be able to move the ball through the air pretty well.
Okay. Let's go off that. I could get bogged down in that, but let's.
I think that's where you should be encouraged, though, right? I mean, I always come on here and talk about the pass game. The NFL is all about pass game, stop the pass, the whole deal. The Cowboys, I think, and I don't know what they're going to do, but I think they should put the ball in Dak's hands and say, hey, go score 30 points as quickly as possible. That should be the goal. It's not a Zeke team. It should be Dak's team, and maybe Hard Knocks hinted that it's not going to be that. But that's how the Cowboys are built. If Dak is healthy, you put him out there, you spread the ball around and say, try to cover CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. Just try it. See what happens. We'll have somebody open, and we're going to move the chains, and we're going to score a lot of points. And then you just go tell the defense, don't give up more than 29. I mean, I think that's how the Cowboys should play football, and we'll see if they end up trying to do that.
No, I agree with you. I think Jerry Jones still looks at football like when he was winning with Emmitt Smith. And when he carried, the load, so to speak, and the game was totally different back then. And McCarthy's hinting around about, maybe running Zeke more, and I'm sitting there going, what? Where am I? Does anybody look at analytics here? So, and I think Kellen Moore's in over his head. So other than that, I feel good about the Cowboys.
You know what? I think the worst thing that happened was in 2016, obviously that's Dak's first season and Zeke's a rookie and they come in and they have such a good year. And so it was bad because it felt like it was Zeke that did it, when the reality was, they brought in Dak, who was as efficient as Romo previously, and it's and it was like that was the key. It was quarterback pass game efficiency, not Zeke. But I feel like Jerry's trying to get back to that. Well, rookie season, Zeke did this, and this, and we went to the playoffs, and I feel like that almost working against. It's almost working against them right now because they had instant success, and Zeke was their first round pick that particular season.
Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com on the Out of Bounds show and the Modelo guest line. Okay, so how much when everybody's getting hot and bothered about Josh Allen at Buffalo, and I know we've got a bunch of fantasy football listeners, and he gets the mega contract, and what Sean McDermott is doing is really cool. What are your expectations for him going forward? I mean, do you expect him to play at that ridiculous level for years to come, or how do you see it, Steve?
I think Allen has to regress a little bit. The one thing I've learned, for better or for worse, when it comes to football and stats and analytics and all that stuff, is you don't always go with the good story. You go with what the data tells you. So the good story is Josh Allen, was okay his first couple of years, and then he figured it out, and now he's arrived and he's a superstar for forever. But the data would say, forget that nice story. Actually, he's supposed to come back down to earth a little bit here, because those first 2 years where he was an average to below average quarterback, like those still matter. Those still exist. They're still a part of the equation. So I do think there'll be some volatility to Allen's game. I don't think he'll be a star from here on out, an elite quarterback, but he played at an elite level last year. So you can't take that away from him. I think that's still in there. And if you look at the Bills with the 6-year extension and everything, will there be years? I think when Josh Allen might, get back to where he was last year, sure, I think that'll happen. But I don't know that you're ready to say, okay, now he's in Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Peyton level or anything like that. There's, like other quarterbacks, there'll be some ups and downs.
Okay.
But the thing Allen brings is that huge arm and athleticism. And you mentioned fantasy. Even when Allen's not at his best, he's a great fantasy player because he knows how to find the end zone, because of the rushing value, because of the big plays that he can create. So the Bills will be happy, but I don't think you're going to see the level of consistency that he showed last year, because it was just such a big jump that he took last season.
All right, all things being equal, I want to get your thoughts here. So let's just assume when I ask this question and we're comparing quarterbacks that they have, the same type coach, same type skill talent around them. Would you take, and we're going to assume that they're healthy, Steve, all right? So all that. Would you take Dak Prescott or Baker Mayfield today?
If we can get Dak out of the MRI machine I would say, yeah, I'd lean Dak right now. I do think it's close though. I'm about. So I gave Dak. Look, here's why I think it's close. I think when you looked at Dak's first 4 seasons, you could say that there was 2 good and 2 average in there if you're being objective. And then his 4th year in early last season, things are trending in the right direction, and I feel good. Okay, Dak's going to be that top 10 caliber quarterback going forward. I think Baker's on that cusp. 2019 wasn't great, but what we saw late last year, was that a progression to be consistent, or is he going to do what I said Josh Allen's going to do? He'll come back down to earth a little bit. So I think it's really close, and I might change my tune if Baker has another strong season. But as of right now, I would take Dak.
So you think it's that close? Like Baker's played that well at times?
Yeah, I do. I think if you looked at Baker throw for throw from his rookie season, he's better and more consistent than Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, who came out that same year. The difference is Lamar and Allen both had those pinnacle seasons. Lamar wins the MVP, and then the Allen season that we just talked about from last year. So I think Baker's actually been far more consistent. And there is a fair argument to say, well, here's why I want to see it again. It did seem like the system was much better last year, play action heavy. Baker he was in a very good situation. At the same time, you could give him the excuse and say, well, he lost his first number 1 wide receiver in Odell Beckham Jr., and he was throwing to Jarvis Landry, to Rashard Higgins, Austin Hooper's. Like, they paid him a lot of money, but it's not like he's a great tight end. So you could make the argument that Baker's actually not thrown to the greatest group of playmakers there. He's had a good system, good run game, play action, and the whole deal. So that's why I still think there's more information that I need. I also think Baker's college career does matter. He's been elite. He was elite at Oklahoma. I do think that carries over to the NFL to a point, and it's a big year for my takes on Baker Mayfield. I'll say that.
All right. Is Lamar over? All right, Dak or Lamar? All things equal, who would you take?
This one's close too. I would lean Lamar here because
really,
yeah, and he's the guy where I've had to. My college take was that dynamic runner. I predicted that he would rush for 1,000 yards in a season. He's already done that. But I was worried about his accuracy. But the thing that Lamar brings, he has the ability to elevate his offense just in a different way because the defense has to account for Lamar Jackson as a runner. Now, he has to be in a system where you're going to use him as a runner, right? If you just dropped him into any old offense, it's not the same thing. But Lamar, if he's used as a designed runner, and that defenses have to account for him, it opens up the field. And again, I'll use the same thing I said with Baker. Lamar has done it without the best group of playmakers too. Who you're throwing to makes such a huge difference in today's NFL. So when you do see quarterbacks elevate their supporting cast or not even have a true number 1 wide receiver and win the MVP like Lamar Jackson did, I think that means something. So that's why I would lean Lamar, that he's just so difficult to defend. And you mentioned, hey, same offense. If you dropped Lamar and Mike McCarthy's offense and just, and it was exactly the way Dak ran it, I would take Dak. But if I have Lamar's skill set, I'll build around him, and I feel pretty good about building an offense using that skill set.
So you think you pick Lamar, you feel like his accuracy is good enough, and you go.
So what happened at Louisville and what's happened with Baltimore, Lamar's still not very accurate. I mean, he's okay. He's improved a little bit. But when the throws are more open, it doesn't matter as much. He can still throw catchable passes. He can throw great passes too, but he can still just throw catchable passes. So it's not like that Joe Montana put it on the front number on Jerry Rice and let him catch and run. But Lamar has open throws because you have to have an extra defender keeping an eye on Lamar as a runner. And you run a lot of play action, and all of a sudden you've got dudes wide open. And that's like the Lamar factor. It's not a scheme thing. It's we have to account for this guy as a runner.
Yeah.
So that offsets his accuracy a little bit, having more open throws because of his skill set.
Well, and I think they haven't run – I'm saying this after Dak's ankle turned the wrong way, but I don't think that they have allowed him to be as big a playmaker. He's not Lamar with his legs, but I don't think they've allowed him to put enough pressure on the defense with his legs while he's been in Dallas. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, look, I think one of the reasons why Dak surprised so many people is because Dan Mullen used him so much, running QB power and counter and, he looked like, oh, here's this run first quarterback who, throws it around, okay. And he's been just an excellent pure pocket passer in the NFL. But I'm with you. When the Cowboys get into the red zone, all of a sudden you should be tapping into Dak's rushing ability. He should have 6 or 8 touchdowns per season, and not just on snakes, but on keepers and the whole deal, because that's when the red zone's all about scheming it up or having dudes who just win, right? You either have a Randy Moss or a Mike Evans or whatever, or you're trying to win the numbers advantage, or you're trying to scheme guys open. And I think Dak's rushing ability absolutely should be tapped into. You don't have to run him like Cam Newton and run downhill power and stuff like that, but just a couple keepers here and there to keep defenses honest, I think would be huge and make the Cowboys that much more dangerous, especially in the red zone.
Okay. And now that they already were not using him the right way in the red zone. Now that he got hurt, I think they'll even be more conservative, because I don't think Kellen Moore knows what he's doing either. And so this will be even more of could be even more of a train wreck. Although, I can think of a few times where Dak's made some huge plays inside the 5, 6, 7-yard line with his legs, but I just don't think quite enough. So, all right, so you would take Lamar over Dak. All right, Kyler Murray. What do we do with Kyler Murray?
Wait and see this season.
Okay.
It's a big year. It's a big year for Kyler. I think I keep coming back to this QB rushing attack just because it just mitigates. It's like I used the velocity example last week, where I think I used the baseball analogy, but it's similar to that too. Like if you have more velocity, it gives you leeway with your control. If you have more rushing ability, it gives you more leeway with your decision making or accuracy or whatever it might be. If Kyler he started to be used a lot more in the design run game last year. So when you can steal 600 or 800 yards from your quarterback, it takes pressure off him being perfect in the pocket and making good decision after good decision. So Kyler's a dynamic runner. I think they should continue to tap into that. He's got a good deep ball. My big question with him is at that intermediate level. The money place in the NFL is that 10 to 19-yard level. Obviously it's past the first down markers, but that's where you need to win, throwing curls and seam routes and deep in routes. And that's where I think Kyler needs to improve a lot. And I don't know how much of that's Cliff Kingsbury and his air raid scheme, which seems to be a little bit more throw it down the field or chuck it underneath. So I think that's the place where Kyler needs to take a big step forward. If he doesn't, I think he's stuck in that middle tier of quarterbacks, even with that rushing ability. But he's got all the skills to be a top end quarterback, but he's got to improve intermediate style. And that's and I don't know if his height's an issue there too. So to me, that's what I'm looking for the most is Kyler just rounding out his game as a passer.
All right, Steve Palazzolo, NFL Insider, PFF.com, Pro Football Focus, joining us on the Modelo guest line. I want to go back to Gardner Minshew. We only had like a minute to a minute and a half last week, but you like him. You feel like he's a guy who could hang around, start some. And I think your comment was, hey, he's had nothing to work with in Jacksonville. Obviously, this is big Gardner Minshew territory. Expand on that if you don't mind, what you could see from him.
So that's what it is. Again, from a team building standpoint, I say get a quarterback and then get as many, make the offensive line reasonable and then get as many good playmakers around that guy and spread it around. And if you look at the Jaguars, the 2 years Minshew started, they didn't have any of that. DJ Chark's emerged as a pretty good player. They had Laviska Shenault at times last year, but it's not like Minshew's had great guys to throw to. They've had one of the worst tight end situations in the NFL the last few years. And their offensive line's been, bottom 10, bottom 12 from a pass blocking standpoint. So, yeah, Minshew's not perfect, certainly. He could do a better job taking care of the ball and trying not to be a hero late in plays and various things like that. But especially as a rookie, he was unbelievable throwing the ball down the field with timing and anticipation, doesn't have the best arm in the world. So bottom line is I look at Jacksonville's roster and say, how did they even move the ball with this group? Gardner Minshew was kind of the guy that was moving them forward. So he elevated his supporting cast, which is impressive, especially for a 6th-round pick, and at least makes me intrigued if I'm looking for a high-end backup or maybe a low-end starter, and just to see if he can continue to progress at some point in his career.
I wonder do you have anybody in mind that could go after him? I don't know, like the Broncos. I'm just trying. Who? Oh, Saints. Okay. Well, do you have anybody in
They're the
mind that could go after Gardner Minshew at some point, Steve?
The Broncos are interesting, but I feel like they might have that guy in Teddy Bridgewater. So, again, I'm intrigued by Minshew. I don't know if he's better than a Teddy Bridgewater, but, again, it's early in his career enough that maybe that he is.
Okay.
I think, the Panthers could be a team if they sour on Sam Darnold, but I don't think the Panthers are going to want to go from, retread to retread at that point. The Saints, if everything goes, if we see that Jameis and Taysom are both terrible this year, maybe the Saints take a look,
That'd be awesome.
But again, the NFL's in this spot where it's not difficult to find Gardner Minshew level quarterbacks. Andy Dalton is a similar type quarterback, right? I mean, Marcus Mariota. There's a lot of those players around the NFL. I think we have plenty of starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL. But I think you just take a shot on Minshew as a backup, and you don't feel. And if he does develop and become a better starter, maybe you hit on something.
Who's the number one rookie QB that you're looking at? Like, that you're really intrigued with this year?
All of them, really. But I'd say Justin Fields. I look at Fields, and our numbers loved him. The NFL was certainly lower than I think a lot of people anticipated. I think they have specific reasons why they were lower. Holding on to the ball, late decision making, good offense at Ohio State, maybe making them look good. But man, he's going to land somewhere between that Russell Wilson, or I could see him right now being like a Ryan Tannehill with the potential to be, far, far better. And I just want to see that. I want to see if the NFL was right, all the teams that passed on Justin Fields, or if the Bears, hit gold and made that aggressive move and finally found their quarterback. So I think Fields they're all intriguing. They're all great, but I think Fields is the most intriguing out of those rookies.
What about rookie wide receiver?
Who are the rookie wide? My mind has gone blank.
Well, obviously Elijah Moore is going to have an unbelievable year if Zach Wilson can throw the football.
Boy Elijah. I think so. Jalen Waddle's an interesting one too. So
yeah.
Elijah Moore definitely. I mean, Elijah Moore is tearing it up, supposedly, and the Jets just need receivers. So there's a path for him and Corey Davis to be the 1 and 2 there. I look at Jalen Waddle because he went above Devontae Smith, and I'm thinking, okay, Devontae Smith's the better receiver, just like Judy was a better receiver than Ruggs. I want to see how fast Jalen Waddle is on an NFL field, so I want to see him.
Ooh, I love that. All right, cool. That was fun. Steve Palazzolo at PFF_Steve on Twitter. His podcast is awesome. NFL Pro Football Focus podcast. You can find it on Apple, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Yeah, Spotify, Podbean, and all that. He joined us on the Modelo guest line. And I think I'll be in a better spot next week. Maybe I won't watch HBO Hard Knocks. Steve, have a great weekend. Thank you, buddy.
I just hope it's a better episode for you. Thanks, Bo.
We missed National Panini Day, so we're going to have it today on the show. Smash a panini at Sal and Mookie's in Madison for lunch. They're amazing. So is their New York-style pizza. Sal and Mookie's in Madison. Back in a second.